Hello and welcome to another episode of Gamescussion with me, Carlos, and my partner, Jay.
Hello, welcome everyone.
Today's video's topic is gonna be underrated video games, or underrated and underappreciated.
Yeah, we're gonna be talking about a couple of titles actually. To be frank, we're gonna be talking about 4 titles in the main discussion, and then we're gonna possibly mention some honorable mentions also. But basically, we have both selected two games which we think are underappreciated. But I'm gonna let you, Carlos, start.
Alright, let's get right into it. And the first game that I'm gonna be talking about is a title released in 2011 called Dead Island.
Yeah, actually, we played that as a group, as a multiplayer game. We had a little group game playing that together. So
Yeah, it's a horror action game, zombies and stuff taking over an island, as you might guess from the title of the game. And you control this group, or if you can play it solo, obviously. So you're gonna be controlling a one person, and then if you have any others in your party, you're gonna have. Well, actually, let's get right into it because this is one of the points I'm gonna be making when I'm gonna be talking about the game. But so anyway, so this game came out in 2011, like I said, and I'm not actually sure. I should have checked this before, but there was a trailer for the game that came out. It even has its own Wikipedia article, which tells you how big of a deal it was. And this came out, I think, like let me see actually. This came out 7 months before the game came out. Okay, so this trailer comes out, this really emotional video that shows a family on a vacation and these zombies just attacking them and whatnot, and this little girl getting bitten by a zombie and then turning on her parents, and it had a really good reception. Like, people were really excited, like, oh, what is this new game gonna be like? And oh, this is gonna be like a dramatic zombie game or whatever. It's gonna be heartfelt, it's gonna be heartbreaking and whatever. And
it wasn't.
and then, yes,
It
exactly,
wasn't.
7 months later we get a game, and it starts with this intro cinematic of a club, of basically of a drunk guy just stumbling through the club, listening to this uh, novelty rap track that was made for the game, and then you get to the gameplay, and it's basically just
It was Sam B, right?
right.
Was the
Yes,
character name Sam B?
Sam B
A
rapping
one rap star.
his a fictitious 100 one hit wonder called "Who Do You Voodoo."
Yeah,
So
I remember that
so yeah, so
that track
yeah,
quite well. Yeah.
and obviously there was a bit of a contrast to the trailer, like to what maybe people were expecting, which led to already like people being like kind of skeptic of this game, and that it's not gonna hold up because it's basically this really high action paced, action game where you're just whacking these zombies by the numbers and shooting them and whatnot, driving over them with a car, instead of a sort of a story driven and
Yeah, nothing sneaky like and trying to avoid the zombies. It was
no.
it was just head-on mayhem.
Basically, like, because, well, obviously you can't call it like false advertising, because what was in the original cinematic trailer was just like something that would be in the game. Like, those people would be in there in the holiday resort and being attacked by these zombies because of the outbreak. But basically, like, people obviously had other expectations. So when the game came out, there was already a bit of a backlash considering that. But that's not like the only point of like why people were like, why it had such a negative reception, the game. Like, it wasn't just because it wasn't what they quite expected. Another big thing with the game was that it did have a lot of like bugs and glitches in it. It wasn't very polished at all, actually. And what I was talking about earlier about how the game, because when you play the game, you have these cut scenes, and this is one thing that stood out, and I remember from playing it. It was kind of weird, like if you played it solo, or maybe with just one friend or something, So you have like two characters in game, and you're doing quests and going around talking to people.
Yeah.
But then you get like in-game graphics cutscene, and suddenly like the whole group is there, like these characters you didn't choose at the beginning who weren't in the game. So it's kind of a jarring thing, like because the group consists of 4 people, and if you're like playing alone or 2 or even 3, there's all the other like you don't have like AI companions.
No, it's just basically you and your friends.
Yeah, and then but when you get like a cutscene or something like happens, and then suddenly like the whole group is there. I just remember that being really like would it be so hard to code it so that they didn't show up when you didn't have that many players or something? Because just removing a model from the cutscene, because they're in-game graphics as well. It's not like they're like CGI like pre-rendered cutscenes or anything. So
Yeah.
that's kind of odd. And obviously a whole like a list of other smaller bugs and glitches and whatnot. But a very like sort of an unpolished feel to the game. But nevertheless, I like looking at the score of the game, and you have a lot of like going around 7 and 8 from like different publications. Edge magazine actually gave it a 3 out of 10, which I think is a really harsh. Like
Yeah,
you'd imagine that kind of a score where people like a game that is barely like playable or something. Whereas Dead Island
yeah,
actually
written
thought was
with
pretty.
game-breaking bugs, like you couldn't save the game or
Yeah, and the game would be
whatever.
crashing every other
Yeah,
minute.
that would warrant a 3, but it's
Yeah.
quite harsh because I never played it alone. I played it with you guys basically.
Yeah.
But I imagine the game might be a bit boring by yourself, but is boring still a category you can actually warrant giving a game which people work hard on a 3?
Yeah, no, and like I was saying,
Well,
like
it's
obviously,
not.
like you look at these scores, there's a like when you think of like a big game like big game release like this, you don't like usually when you see games scoring stuff like 5 out of 10 or 6 out of 10, you think like there's something wrong with this game.
All in all, there wasn't that much wrong with Dead Island actually. Playing it multiplayer, okay. It might get redundant to stomp on zombie heads for the 50 millionth time. But still, the story was it was okay. It was
Oh yeah,
moving forward the whole time. I
uh,
don't think they deserve the reception it got. It's a better game than what people really think, in my opinion.
but yeah. So I'm just gonna sum it up. In Dead Island is a I wouldn't say criminally underrated since it does have like decent like, Metacritic PC score is 80, which is that's okay. Obviously, like the user score is a bit low. It's 6.8, which is harsh. But I'd imagine that's disgruntled people who were waiting, who expected a different game and went to relieve
Yeah,
their anger at on these forums and stuff. But
yeah,
I do I if you do like if you like zombie games, I think it's one of the finer ones. I don't play that many zombie games myself, but out of the ones that I have played, Deadland is my favorite, and I definitely recommend it. Like playing with a friend or two, maybe
yeah.
even
That's
3 if you have
more.
that many. But
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. That it's a game worth picking up, especially if you have a good group of friends who like to play the same kind of games. It's a good game to pick up. I think totally underrated on that regard. So fits on the list perfectly.
what about you, Jay?
Should we
Let's get
move?
to you. Yeah.
Yeah, should we move up for the next title, which in my case is a game I played and I know you haven't played it. It was Mirror's Edge. I don't know how much you know about the game.
Kind of funnily, the one of the reasons that I know about the game, or as much as I do know about the game, is because I've heard other people call it underrated, and I can't remember when it came out, but I feel like it had sort of a resurgence after a couple of years after it came out. Like people were sort of like rediscovering it for or something.
Yeah, it came out in 2009. and it was basically a parkour game, which you really shouldn't fight the cops that are after you. It has a complicated story behind it, but in all, it was a good platform jumper game, three-dimensional platformer, which, like we have talked in a previous episode of Gamescussion, there are not much of platformer jumpers coming out anymore, and Mirror's Edge was kinda ahead of its time. If you think about back to 2009, 11 years ago, Mirror's Edge had its flaws in it. The controls were kind of hard to get on your first try, and the thing is that it isn't just enough that you run fast and know where you're going, or are quick to decide what you want to do, but you also have to chain your movements, because the character's momentum becomes your asset, because you can outrun your opponents easily when you have a fluid continuity through your physical actions, and that makes you move faster and faster, which it's something that was quite new back in 2009, to try and combine your movements in order to become faster and faster.
Yeah, and I remember like it was quite of like a unique concept in itself. The whole game, like it had a very like, actually, did it have a distinctive graphic style? Was it, or was it like just
Uh,
normal? Because I remember there's something being like reading about something.
yeah, it has some futuristic cityscape, and the graphics are quite futuristic, even if I would put it somewhat cartoonish. What's a bit different, they use bright colors a lot in this game. It's not that dark adventure to run out of cops. It's it has bright colors. It's fast paced. You have to make your mind up in seconds to make the next decision, what you're gonna do, where you're gonna go, where you're gonna run, where you're gonna jump. It creates a lot of frustrating moments when you decide that this is the right way to jump, and well, split second after you realize that, well, this isn't the right way to go, and you fall down from a rooftop or something like that. But all in all, it was a good game. In my opinion, it got 79 from Metacritic. Actually, it it isn't a horrible score, but it isn't the best score.
Yeah.
And well, some publication gave it very good score, but Edge magazine once again 5 out of 10.
Wow, they're real bitches over
When
there.
you,
They're
when
really
you
over
look, when yeah, they're bitches, yeah. But if you look at the video you're looking right now, is it really that bad of a game? It isn't the longest game. I think if you're looking for a good platformer game, Mirror's Edge deserves a look at. It's something I enjoyed, and if anybody listening to this decides to pick it up and try it out, I hope you enjoy it too, because in essence, it's a good game. It doesn't have any combat or anything like that. It's basically a high-speed puzzle game. You need to solve your way through quite fast through different kind of obstacles. And if you enjoy that, I recommend you to pick it up. But I think it's time to move once again onto your choice of a game.
All right, yeah.
So go ahead, Carlos.
For my second game I went with a game that came out in 2010, which I guess would be best described that it was overlooked for like one very sort of well, not an odd reason, but a stupid reason in my opinion. So the game's called Dante's Inferno. and it's this hack and slash action video game, and like most people are like I know like actually just to point out to anybody who might be thinking like what are these guys talking about, these are like mainstream games that have millions of sales and stuff. The point wasn't here to like say that these are some kind of a hidden gems in the gaming world that nobody's ever heard of. The point
So
was that
much
these
and
games didn't get the
are small indie games. Yeah.
yeah, the point was that these games didn't didn't receive as much appreciation as we thought they might deserve. Is that's
Yeah.
the point. So going with Dante's Inferno, this game came out in 2010, and so it quite like I'd reckon it probably did quite well commercially, or well enough I'd say. It didn't receive a sequel, so it was maybe that big a success, but it wasn't quite as big as the game series that inspired it, which would be God of War, which I reckon is one of the biggest game series, especially on consoles of or like one of the biggest PS series as at least, if not one of the biggest console series, and one of my like favorite trilogies. The original three God of War games are absolute perfection to me. I think they are one of those rare cases where each game is just like so easy to go from one to the next and be impressed all over again. But yeah, getting back to Dante's Inferno, this was a very similar game. And when I say that, I mean very similar, to the point where like
The mechanics and enemies and stuff like that are
yeah, and like the whole game, like if you would play like through God of War, uh, whichever of the three first ones, and then you went to this game. Actually, I might have to do a little. Oh, this game actually came out before. No, it didn't. It came a month before God of War 3, so whatever. But
I was about to say to you, get your facts straight before the episode, Carlos.
okay, so if let's say you played to God of War 1 or 2, and then you went to Dante's Inferno, and you could instantly like pick up the controller and be doing the combos, like using the same button combinations even, basically, because that's similar, and you'd have like the way of like managing like whatever your it's so hard to explain how like similar it is, not just in like control wise, but all these quick time events and stuff like that, and the gore and stuff. And so that was like the big reason, like people like sort of I think saw it as a cheap clone of the God of War series. Like sure, like God of War is a huge game series, let's copy it and do our own. But I feel like that's doing a disfavor to like Dante's Inferno.
Yeah, but you have to consider it. What God of War does, it basically runs in the Greek mythology and revolves around that. And okay, the games are quite similar on their controls and the style hack and slash game, but whatever, people are allowed to make hack and slash games, and if somebody else has a good control schematics, I wouldn't go and try to invent the wheel again. If something has been proven good, why wouldn't you use it?
Oh no, I
Basically, if you
yeah,
think
but
about the control scheme.
but
Yeah.
at the same
What
time,
the-
like I can see the point. Like if you imagine, because like I said, like the point here is like how similar. Like even like one of the actually famous things about God of War, not just the hack and slash fast-paced action, but also like the boss fights in God of War. Like you have these huge that don't even fit on the screen, like huge boss fights where you're just like flying from one body part of the boss to the other and stuff like that. And then you have like a really gory finishing move. Like Dante's Inferno went like exactly copied that as well.
Okay.
So I can like see like the how do you say like you know, I can understand like the problem people might have with it. Like it's sort of lazy to maybe to copy it or something. Like they're just trying to make a quick buck. But like if you like really enjoy the God of War series, like I don't understand how you cannot enjoy this game. Like you just have to like put it past yourself. Like this is sort of a cheap copy, because it's not. It's just like, yes, like you said, you know, why reinvent the wheel? Like they just wanted to Like you could just imagine they wanted to make their own like sort of give out their own spin on it. And yeah, like obviously the biggest difference between the two games is the
Yeah,
story and setting.
Yeah, what I was trying to make a point there is that in my mind, it is okay if you see a good concept out of somebody that they're making this hack and slash game. It's not okay to copy it directly. I would see it more of a copying if it would be in Greek mythology and have the same gods and demigods and whatever you have to fight. That would be copying. But taking it out of that concept and putting it into another concept and trying to develop a good concept even further, that's something that in my books it's quite acceptable.
Yeah, and this is the way that games usually like this is like normal like in game development. Like if you think about like hack and slash action role playing games of like Diablo. Like imagine how many of action RPGs like Diablo there
Yeah,
are now, which are basically the same. Like if you like one game that, I just want to make a point out here that Diablo 2 is one of my favorite games, and I've played a lot of like very similar games after it. That I don't hold them against it that they've copied this classic game, and it's basically everything from it all the way to the inventory looking exactly the same and working the same and having different scrolls and portals to go around the map. Like it's so similar, and I just feel like that's something you have to accept. Like you know,
yeah.
there's just
You
so
can
many
actually
things you can do.
compare. Easy comparison.
Yeah.
Diablo series and Baldur's Gate series.
Yeah, and newer games like I haven't actually tried it, but Grim's Dawn is a very popular game, which is basically the same genre.
Yeah,
And they obviously all these games put their own spin in Path of Exile, and all these games have their own spin on the original idea. Sort of like even with Dante's Inferno, the amount of like effort they put into the game, like the level design in that game is absolute amazing, and all
yeah,
the music is great and stuff like that. Like, and I just feel like it's a shame that most people just remember it as sort of this God of War copy and maybe didn't give it the chance that it deserved, in my opinion. Like, I guess if you're a fan of the like big fan of the God of War series like I am, then you definitely have to give this a try. Like you owe it to yourself. Like I said, like it could be like a spin-off game of, almost of like the at least of the original God of Wars. I know the newest God of War is a whole different genre, but if you're a fan of the original God of Wars, then absolutely go give this game a try, and hopefully you'll
yeah.
enjoy it as much as I did.
I won't, but you should. Yeah. Are you finished
Yeah,
with that?
we can just move on to your final
Yeah, the
underappreciated piece of
final
art.
take. Yeah. What I want to talk about is actually series Brothers in Arms, and most of it, the Hell's Highway, which is the last sequel to that game. So basically, it's an FPS first-person shooter, tactical shooter with a World War II theme, which follows basically a team of soldiers in World War II fighting different kind of battles, and that game actually is like you put it well. You put it well yesterday or the day before that. I cannot remember for the life of me, but you said it was the Citizen Kane of FPS shooters.
Yes, I mean
The
the
whole,
first one,
yeah,
the original, yeah.
yeah. But if you think about it, now games use this kind of a thing quite often, but I remember this would be the first FPS shooter slash tactical shooter that gave you the option of basically slowing time, going into tactical view, giving orders to your men to get in position in different positions in the field, take cover, and covering fire in order for you to move forward or something like that. And also, what was in the first two games actually was making it harder. There was no health regeneration system. So basically, when you got shot, and your health didn't regenerate. But and still, the first game is considered by many to be the best World War II shooter game available even to this day. But I think the third game is underrated in that aspect that it brought basically the breakable cover systems into FPS games. You couldn't hide behind a wooden fence basically and be safe from gunfire. You could break the environment in the third game. And back in 2008, it was something new that the environment could be broken.
You have to like imagine the thinking about the reception that the third game received, and compare it like the when the original came out. Because like if you go back to like when they, or actually I have to check the year here, 2005. So the original came out in 2005, so it's actually a couple of years newer than I actually thought. But like back then, like even then, I think there was like when you had like these PC shooter games or like shooter FPS games in general,
Yeah.
like a lot of them were like World War II shooters and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And like you think like when the third game came out in 2008, maybe people have like sort of moved on from all those like World War II shooters and were like looking for something else. Because I know like you have like Call of Duty series that went on from like World War II to Modern Warfare and stuff like that. And there were like obviously also I know FPS games were like they've always been big. Obviously, they've always been a really popular series, and maybe there was like a bit of them like other like what do you say other genres were taking over the especially on the PC side of things, which because I'd imagine like these were mostly maybe more popular on PC than on consoles.
Yeah, and what FPS games started to move towards heavily actually uh, was the multiplayer side
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
of
Yeah.
things.
Yeah. Exactly. Like the obviously Brothers Arms wasn't like the popular multiplayer shooter. You didn't get like people had, like I said, you had Modern Warfare and you had Halo and stuff like that, which were basically like the big shooter games.
Yeah, if you think about the equivalent, so you said it was 2005 when Brothers in Arms Road to Hill 30 came out. It is actually the same year Call of Duty 2 came out to PC, 2005. And what Call of Duty 2, it had an okay story, an okay gameplay in single player, but still it was aimed to be a multiplayer game more and more, which actually the Call of Duty series has been building towards after Call of Duty 1, which was actually a good single player game, but Call of Duty 2 started to move towards the multiplayer side of it. And what made Brothers in Arms a good series and underrated series is the realism behind it. You're not alone. In many cases, when you're playing an FPS war shooter game, you're moving alone, which wouldn't happen in a war situation. You would never be alone. And the other thing is that you have control over your group also. You can tell them what to do. And if we still talk about Hell's Highway, what it introduced into FPS games, firstly, it the cover system, breakable covers, different materials to covers which you can break the environment. Second thing, it brought suppressing the enemies. You could basically shoot around the enemies to make them a bit afraid to peek out from their cover, giving you time to do something on that time. These are basically two big things that make that series a good FPS shooter game.
Yeah, but still, like you hear about Call of Duty all the time, you hear of Battlefield, but nobody really talks about that much about Brothers in Arms. Even though, like, which is kind of funny because, like, well, yeah, like you say, it came out in 2005, and obviously Call of Duty and Battlefield were established before that. So it did have its like moment in sort of, and one of the things, like you said, it was more gritty and realistic, like the.
It was more hardcore.
Yeah, so like that's what was
focused
missing.
on the single player aspect of the game.
Yeah, so maybe that was something like people weren't that much looking like it wasn't that popular with the mass audience of these FPS games. So that could be a reason also, like why the. Like, even though the original was such a success, maybe, but some people even who liked the first one, maybe they moved on to the other series.
Yeah. But all in all, if you are looking shooter to play alone, Brothers in Arms deserves a shot because it really is a good game series. All three games, I think they have, if you don't mind the graphics, because back in 2005, and 2008 the graphics weren't the best available. I think that wraps up quite well of what we were about to say. If you don't have anything else in mind.
No, not much. Obviously, there's a lot of games you'd wanna, like, other games that we could be talking about. There's a lot of games which I consider underappreciated or overlooked for one reason or the other, but I think we'll save those for maybe another time.
Yeah, I think that wraps up the episode quite well.
Yeah.
Now, from my part, I'd like to thank everybody who has had the time to listen us ramble once again about games and gaming stuff. And hope you follow us in every possible media, YouTube, Twitch, and whatever there is. Actually, no Twitter available. Those fuckers. That's a ramble for another day. Do you have anything else to add?
No, I think that's it. Just to remind people to, if you enjoy listening to us ramble about these games, and join us in 2 weeks when we get to the next topic we have in hand, whichever that might be.
Yeah, and if you have suggestions about topics you want us to talk about, please leave them below in the comment section here in YouTube, and maybe one day you also might have that hands. In our very capable hands. But now I think it's time to say goodbye and thank you, and I will see you next time.
See ya.
Me, Sam B. Shrunken head, broken legs, body parts on the concrete. Cut 'em up, butcher style gators in the swamp. Red light, leave 'em dead, running like a track meet. Scared of nobody, what your motherfuckers want. Believe me when I tell 'em I'm a boogeyman beast.